Modern life, it just feels like a constant blur, doesn't it?
It really does.
I mean, everything is instant, it's fragmented, and it feels, well, fundamentally unstable. We're moving so much faster than our minds or even our environment can possibly keep up with.
And there's actually a name for that in sociology. We are living in a world of what they call liquid consumption and also being socially accelerated.
Socially accelerated, what does that actually mean?
It means our connection to things, to people, even places, it sort of dissolves almost as soon as it forms. So we're constantly feeling this need to chase the next thing, just to feel stable.
And that speed, it comes at a profound cost. I'm not just talking about a mental one. We are, I think, rapidly losing the skill of actively paying attention.
Just being in the moment.
Yeah, just enjoying the moment. And that lost attention, it directly fuels this environmentally damaging need for excessive consumption.
Exactly. When you look at the raw data, it's pretty shocking. Resource use globally has actually tripled since the 1970s. Tripled. And if current consumption rates continue, we could require the resources of 3 planet Earths by 2050 just to keep up.
Okay, so if speed is the disease, what's the antidote? This is what we're going to get into today. We're taking a deep dive into how intentionally slowing down or deceleration is fundamentally changing individual lives.
Right. And our sources argue that this deceleration offers a really concrete path to feeling grounded, fulfilled, and, even connected to a much-needed sense of hope.
So the central mission for us today is to explore that journey. We'll look at what people are doing to achieve that emotional stability, that groundedness.
And then we'll see how small actions and these really powerful symbols reinforce that sense of hope. And finally, we'll look at the potential for these slower lifestyles to actually drive, long-term sustainability.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the fundamental goal here for pretty much everyone embracing this shift is achieving groundedness. It's not just about relaxing, is it? It's about feeling emotionally rooted, having a strong foundation, a deliberate counterbalance to that instability of modern life.
It's the feeling that you are not constantly being, thrown off balance by technology or work or social media. But here's the fascinating part. The sources show that people get to this groundedness through 4 very different personal pathways.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're not all doing the same thing for the same reason.
Not at all. They might share the same tools, like slow food or slow travel, but their underlying motivation is completely distinct.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Let's start with the first one. This is the journey towards nature as a source of food and home.
Right. For these individuals, nature is it's the essence of life. Slowness provides this regular, almost ritualistic connection to the land and the seasons.
Often through pretty hard manual labor.
Yes. And this pathway grounds them in both place and past. They're actively trying to reconnect with ancestral knowledge. Things like canning, preserving food, basic farming. They deliberately seek out that feeling of being part of a long chain of history.
We heard this incredible story of a farmer, Isabella. She's 57, and she said something so simple but so powerful. She wants to be growing food at 99.
I love that. It just highlights this deep, long-term commitment they feel to the natural rhythm of life, which is, by its very nature, slow.
And what does that commitment lead to?
Well, a profound sense of self-sufficiency, for one, but more importantly, it results in this heightened awareness of nature's interconnectedness. They start to notice these small details that, the rest of us just miss.
Like what?
Like watching blue native bees in the garden and understanding that their actions right then and there are influencing that entire ecosystem minute by minute.
That seems so beautifully intentional. But the second path, that's very different. It's the spiritual journey towards healing.
Completely different. And this deceleration often doesn't start with a choice. It begins as a disruption.
A disruption.
Yeah, a reaction to some immense pressure. Usually a mental or physical health crisis, like crushing anxiety, chronic illness, or a major loss.
So for people on this path, there's always a clear before and after moment.
Always. They're often coming out of a period of deep suffering that was caused by the speed of their previous lives. And so this journey is inherently future-oriented. They're just desperately pursuing peace of mind.
And this is where things like minimalism and decluttering come in, right?
Exactly. They simplify their physical lives to free up that blocked mental and emotional energy. They start to see all the stuff as just cluttering their internal landscape.
There's that one quote from a user after a relative passed away.
Oh, that was so powerful. They realized that, and I'm quoting here, it isn't the stuff that makes a life, and how none of those relatives ever increased their happiness with all of those things.
Wow, that single realization that materialism is secondary to well-being.
Mm.
That's the trigger.
It's a moment of profound clarity. It changes everything for them.
Okay, so that shifts the focus from external possessions to internal space. Now, moving away from that internal crisis, the third path is the social journey towards others.
Right, where interpersonal relationships and community become the absolute priority. This one is all about satisfying that universal human need to belong.
And this manifests in focusing on the quality of time, not the quantity.
Yes. It often involves these singular happy moments where they just interrupt their fast lives for a deep connection.
Like a slow travel camping trip with family.
Exactly. We're dedicating time to community service. It's about being present with others.
I found the example of Sophie, age 26, so insightful. Her own children notice that when they travel slowly, she has more real attention for them.
She has time to really listen.
Yeah, instead of just rushing through an itinerary, it's that focused presence that makes the connection so meaningful.
And the interesting aspect of this social journey is that the priority for people naturally starts to include an ethical dimension. This care for present and future generations becomes the motivation for sustainable choices.
Right, like Sophie buying a cargo bike for transport. That wasn't just about her family. It was directly tied to her awareness of climate pressure.
Exactly. Her personal connection to her children expanded into a connection to their future.
Okay, so that path is clearly outward-focused, it's altruistic, it's communal. Which brings us to the fourth path, which is almost the complete opposite.
It really is the self-centered journey towards individuality. This group views slowness as pure self-care and self-realization. They're firmly putting their personal needs first.
And this is where we need to bring in that concept of, what was it, Eigensight?
Eigensight, yes, it's a German term. It's crucial here because it means one's own time or one's own tempo.
So these individuals are honoring an internal rhythm that is completely decoupled from, society's clocks, the 9 to 5, the mortgage, the standard career ladder.
They deliberately go against those conventional norms, choosing not to pursue certain careers or even marriage, precisely because those structures conflict with their internal Eigensight.
And they experience the joy of missing out, JOMO, rather than FOMO.
Right. They are not chasing the next big event or trend. Their goal is self-realization through unscripted experiences. They'll often adopt only a skeleton of a plan.
Guided solely by intuition.
Just intuition. They value being present over being busy.
So we have this tension then. We've got the social journey, motivated by care for the planet and other people, and then the self-centered journey, motivated purely by personal peace. Does the research show that one leads to greater sustainability than the other?
That is a fantastic point, and we are absolutely going to dive deep into that specific tension at the end. It's probably the most critical wrinkle in the data.
Okay.
But for now, what the source material suggests is that all four paths, just by creating that intentional distance from speed, achieve greater mindfulness and often less destructive consumption.
So what does all this search for groundedness mean for our daily lives? We've talked about these big pathways, but it turns out profound change often comes from tiny, intentional moments.
That's right. The sources call it a ripple effect. These are the small acts of kindness that reinforce stability and comfort. They're like little injections of hope into an unstable world.
And what struck me about those stories from the sources is that the givers, they rarely expected any credit.
No, not at all.
We read about the man in the business suit who insisted a stranger take his umbrella in a torrential rainstorm.
Yeah.
He must have gotten soaked himself.
Right. Or the neighbor who secretly washed a car that had been egged overnight.
Such a quiet gesture of care. The victim probably never knew who did it.
And that uncompensated altruism, that quiet giving, that's the core mechanism that really creates the sense of universal hope.
The most powerful example for me was the Chinese restaurant owner.
Oh, that story was amazing.
He learns a poor family had overspent and couldn't afford their bus fare home, so he not only gives them the money, but he sends them home with enough food for 6 people.
And all he asks is that they pay it forward.
Yeah. It just shows how hope can be this immediate, stabilizing force in turbulent times.
So these small acts give us that practical hope right there on the sidewalk.
Right. But you mentioned our sources also found that humans rely on something much older, much bigger, to anchor them. And that's symbols. Why do these universal anchors still hold so much power in our modern world?
Because the need for stability is universal, and these symbols, they just transcend culture and time. They speak directly to resilience, persistence, and peace, no matter what country or technological era you live in. They're visual reminders of enduring human truths.
Yeah, take the anchor. We all know its practical use, right? Sailors use it to secure ships during storms. But symbolically.
It represents stability and security in uncertain times. It reminds us that hope is the thing that can ground us when everything else is moving way too fast.
And then you have the phoenix, that magnificent mythical bird.
It's the ultimate symbol of resilience and rebirth. It rises from the ashes, renewed. It's the perfect testament to triumphing over adversity. It says, it doesn't matter how hard you fall, you can start again.
And finally, the lotus flower. This one feels maybe the most spiritual.
I think so. It symbolizes growth and transformation. It emerges pristine, untainted from this murky, muddy water. It symbolizes our ability to rise above hardship and maintain a kind of spiritual purity. They all provide an emotional baseline.
And it's this emotional baseline, this groundedness, that allows people to connect their personal choices to the wider world.
Yes, the deceleration movement effectively bridges that gap between having a good attitude and, taking concrete, sustainable action. And it impacts all three pillars of sustainability: environmental, social, and economic.
Okay, so environmentally, the shift is pretty clear. When you slow down and connect to nature, like Isabella the farmer,
it fosters a passionate interest in preservation. People start to follow natural rhythms and seasons, and they naturally choose transportation with a smaller ecological footprint, like biking or walking. Speed just isn't the main goal anymore.
and socially, this lifestyle fosters a heightened awareness for ethical issues.
A huge awareness. They feel an altruistic motivation to protect the welfare of others, which translates into things like ensuring fair wages and humane working conditions. This is the core tenet in the original Slow Food Manifesto, for example, that food must be good, clean, and fair.
But let's challenge this a little, because slow often sounds expensive. If I'm buying a sustainable cargo bike or local, organic, slow-grown food, how can this be an antidote for the average person who's already accelerated just because they need two jobs to afford a basic life?
That's a critical question, and the economic pillar addresses it by focusing not on the cost of the initial purchase, but on the cost of the entire consumption cycle. Economically, they achieve sustainability through intentionally reduced consumption. They start to value durability and reliability over those fast fashion, fast furniture cycles.
So it's about shifting away from that constant purchasing, dumping, and replacing model, the model that defines speed as profit.
Precisely. They're champions of the circular economy. This mindset naturally embraces things like repair culture, localism, and buying products designed to last for decades, not seasons. You might spend more up front, but you save money, resources, and time in the long run.
And beyond the environment and the economy, this shift towards valuing human connection has a real impact on our well-being and social infrastructure. Let's consider something like radio.
Such an old technology.
It seems outdated, right?
Yeah.
But it's a low-cost, readily available tool for well-being, especially for older adults.
Yeah, the research shows radio provides immediate comfort, companionship, and mood regulation, even when it's just on in the background. The key benefit, and this connects back to Sophie's deep attention, is the intimacy of the human voice.
The intimate.
Yeah. Whether it's a presenter or a talkback caller, just the presence of a human connection actively mitigates the feelings of loneliness and isolation that our accelerated modern life seems to cultivate.
And this principle, valuing the human element, it extends right into the business world. One source highlighted that business success really hinges on people-focused leadership.
Companies aren't machines to be fine-tuned for quarterly gains. They're living systems sustained by human energy, creativity, discipline, and belief.
I like that. Living systems.
And leadership in this slow, sustainable context, it becomes about stewardship. It's about developing people as assets, not just costs to be minimized.
So sustainable leadership requires looking beyond just immediate profits.
Way beyond. To indicators like employee retention, skills depth, internal promotion rates, because a business that's just consuming its own future talent at a rapid pace isn't truly thriving, it's just failing slowly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today. To circle back, the core finding really is this. Deceleration is a lifestyle that intentionally creates space and time. It fosters a deep mindfulness that anchors us, whether it's in a place with people or in the past.
And that mindfulness is the mechanism. It's what allows us to find deep personal meaning, whether it's through slow food or slow travel, spiritual healing, or self-realization.
That is the beautiful ideal. Now, for that critical thought we set up earlier.
Right. While slowing down generally promotes sustainability, the research found that sometimes the most self-centered decelerators, the ones focused purely on their eigensight and individuality, they might still choose convenience over the planet.
Ah, the tension between the self-centered journey and the social journey. So they slow down their daily pace, but then they might hop on a flight to a far-off destination because it saves them valuable personal time.
And that effectively cancels out their carbon savings from buying the cargo bike.
Right.
Exactly. They've reduced their consumption by default because they aren't chasing the material ladder, but they haven't made an active, ethical commitment to global well-being. Their choice is based purely on maximizing their internal experience.
Which raises a pretty profound question about the slow movement itself then. Does finding self-fulfillment always require an active, ethical commitment to global well-being? Or is the reduced consumption that's just inherent in a slower, less materialist life, even a self-centered one, is that enough to make a meaningful difference?
It's the big question. If the vast majority of people slowed down and just reduced their default consumption, even if they occasionally took a flight for self-realization, would that still be a net win for the environment?
The data doesn't give us a final answer on that.
No, it doesn't. But it forces us to ask if intentionality or outcome is the true measure of sustainability.
It's a fascinating wrinkle. We've seen that these massive shifts, groundedness, hope, sustainability, they can all stem from small acts and simple, slower routines.
That's the most empowering takeaway, I think, that you don't need some grand gesture to start.
So ask yourself this. What everyday activity in your own life could you turn into an extraordinary experience? Whether it's cooking, reading, or just walking the dog, just by choosing to be fully present and honoring its slower rhythm. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.